So what's going on, everybody? Tonight I have Joel Block on. Joel is a technician of General Parts out of the Minneapolis, Minnesota branch. I met Joel just from social media stuff, and come to find out we're coworkers. So thanks for coming on, Joel.
Thanks for having me, Pat.
Yeah, it's amazing all the people I talk to online, and come to find out they work for GP or another parts town company or something. And it's cool. I've met a lot of cool people out there. So look forward to talking to you, see what you have to say about the industry.
Yeah, same. I saw us come up in a few emails, your name and my name, and like people asking, like, "Hey, can you guys write up a blog about this, or what do you guys think about that?" And I'm like, "Who is this guy, Pat?" So I was digging, trying to find out who you are.
Yeah, I always crank out some blogs. I anytime Steven's stumped or needs something, I try to help him out.
Yeah,
He's a pretty good guy, and he's helped me out a lot, so I help him out any chance I get. So
cool.
it gives me something to do. I like writing them. It's different. At first, it was terrible. Like I'd write a bunch, it didn't make any sense, and then Steven would have to spend a day just like going through it and trying to make sense of it. And then now he's like, he changes like two or three words. He's like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "Okay, go ahead."
Yeah, he talked to me about what were we talking about, cooling fans or something one time, and I happen to be just really busy, and so I'm just sending him like little notes, like, okay, cooling fans, keep them clean, they're gonna protect your computers, just some vague stuff, and then all of a sudden he sends me back this long, nicely written out, you know, blog with just the points that I gave him. So I didn't
Yeah,
have to do the writing; he took care of that part.
yeah, he does that a lot of times with me too. He like just starts asking me random questions, especially if he
Yeah,
knows I'm busy. He'll just ask me random questions, and like he's hunting for information. Then all of a
yeah,
sudden, he sends you this like 4 or 5 paragraphs. You're like, well, that's amazing. And then all of a
yeah.
sudden, my name's tied to it. I'm like, well, I just like answered some questions, but hey, I'll take it.
Oh, he's doing his job then. That's good.
Yeah, that's what I tell him. I was like, man, you're amazing with words, dude. I said, I'll stumble and look like a fool, but I can fix anything in the world. So
Yeah, right.
there's a place for everybody, and Steven's found his, I think.
Good.
So you said how did you get started? Were you the one that said that you were like a part runner or a warehouse person or something first, or?
Yeah, I to skip a bunch at the beginning, man. I moved from Fargo, North Dakota, out west to Portland, Oregon, right after 9/11. And at that time, like at 9/11, I was delivering auto parts, right? I was the Napa guy driving around with the little truck with the little hat on top, delivering auto parts. And after 9/11, my shop closed down. So I was ready to get out of Fargo, and I headed west and landed in Portland, Oregon. Started putting out resumes anywhere I could. I didn't, I had random experience in things, but I needed a job. I was applying at Subway to make subs. I remember going to the UPS store to be a shipper or whatever. Some warehouses, some landscaping, and a warehouse got back to me and they said, "Hey, come on in for an interview." I did that. I got the job, $9 an hour to bag and tag parts in a warehouse. Once I got there, I found out what they do, and it was that was Ron's Service in Portland, and they do commercial kitchen equipment. So that's how I got to know even what that was. And my job was to sit at a little desk. The parts would get shipped in. I'd go through, open the box, get the stuff out. And at the time, I had to tag all the parts with the part numbers. And at the time, it was a little gun, and you had to go and dial in, rationale, and then put in all the little numbers, and then tag two parts, change the part number. So I mean, it was a full-time job. But did that, and then Angela Parks, who's now on the corporate side of GP, she was the shipping and receiving lady over there. She was going in for some knee surgery, so they sent me over to shipping and receiving, and I started working with that a little bit. I was horrible at it, but I filled filled the gap while she was gone. In the meantime, they hired back the guy that they fired, that gave me the spot to get in and do parts. So I was kind of floating, and one day a text said, "Hey, I need this toaster fixed. It just needs a cord put on it." I'm like, I don't know anything about it, man. It was like, he handed me a screwdriver and I don't know, pliers or something, and I made it happen. And from there, I don't know. I guess the owner, Tim Foley, He did a lot of he'd come out of the office to do pizza oven installs, Middleby Marshall pizza oven installs, and so he'd take me out on those things. And basically, my job out there, peeling the film off the ovens and taking all the bolts and getting them all with the lock nut and the washer, the lock washer and the washer to get the casters on, and having an extra hand on the oven when you're rolling them on the on the lifts like you got to do. So just helping out basically, and things just sort of progressed from there, man. Guys started taking me out with them, and eventually I picked it up slowly. I didn't have any tools. Guys were kind of giving me their old tools, and I was still only making a little bit of money, so I'd go try to buy some. But there's a lot of guys just giving me tools, their old tools, and that was gold to me, man. That was awesome. And lots of riding around with guys. Eventually, they gave me this old Chevy Astro van, and this thing had the shocks were gone on it. You'd stop, and it would just. And you turn, everything just falling out. It was wild, but yeah. So it was a lot of years of driving that thing around and bending pilot tubes, right? And running. My call was Wolf oven, pilot won't stay lit, right? That's that's the bit. I ran around changing basso valves and thermocouples for a long time because they weren't really looking for a tech. They were pretty stocked up with guys. They were just kind of keeping me there doing that little stuff. And, eventually I moved up and got to go to some rationale training and, figured things out a little bit. I remember before, like probably around the time that I fixed that toaster, right? So I'm fresh into this thing and they brought me into a Frymaster week-long class. And it was, just H50s at that time. It wasn't any love or anything like that. And I stuck with them for a little while. And then we started going into just the wiring and tracing wires. He's got schematics up on the board and just talking a language that I had no idea what he was talking about. And that hurt, man. But maybe it lit a fire under me a little bit. Like maybe I need to, pick this stuff up a little bit and get learning.
That's awesome, man.
So things went from there, marking parts, shipping, receiving, helping out, and eventually out on my own.
That's a pretty cool little story, man. Just help it out and never know where it leads. So
I feel like starting at the bottom it's made me more proud of what I do today, and it's made it harder to walk away. Like I've thought about walking away and doing something else a lot of times, but I went through a lot, man. I walked through the fire. I had no knowledge. So I've been out there beating my head against this stuff for so long. My service manager, Lonnie, out in Portland once told me, he said, you've done so much with so little for so long that I'm about ready to put you on anything. It's like, I did, but I learned the art of talking my way through a situation, using my resources, calling for help, manufacturer tech support. Oh my gosh. Like I know all those guys.
Yeah. Sounds like you had a long way to go like I did. Like I was an electrician, so I understood a little bit about electrical, but I didn't know gas. I didn't know plumbing. I didn't know anything else when I started. And my training where I started was like 2.5 weeks. The day my uniforms came in, they're like, oh, tomorrow you're going out on your own.
Yeah.
I was like, all right. So luckily I had my dad, and he worked with all the guys I worked with, so they treated me pretty well. I didn't get beat up on. I didn't get ignored like most of the new guys would. There's being a new guy going to a company, they're not going to give you the respect. They're not going to do anything. You got to earn it. So luckily, he worked with these guys, and they knew him and respected him. So I had it pretty easy. So that helped me out. But yeah, there's days it's like I can't fix anything. I just beat my head against the wall, and I still have days like that, unfortunately. But
Sure.
I mean, it's the service industry for you. Everything changes. Even when you think you got it figured out, something else happens.
Oh, as soon as I think I'm doing pretty good, I already know it's coming. I know I'm about to get beat up, and it'll take everything I know, everything I've learned, all my resources. Sometimes it still doesn't go. But I like to think of it this way. When I'm sitting there and I'm stuck and I'm like, I'm never going to get out of here, I can remember that I'm not still anywhere. And I've been a lot of places, like I'm going to get out of this. Somehow.
That's a good way to look at it, man. Because, I mean, I'm guilty as everybody else. You get that one call first thing in the morning and beat you up, and you just let that ruin your day. And
Yeah.
I try not to let it do it, but I mean, it happens. It's just part of it. But I like your outlook and your look on it, your take on it. So I'm gonna start using that, man.
Right, it helps because sometimes it's like, and I won't leave, like I don't pull out, I don't just
Hmm.
say, well, we'll come back and check this out. Like,
Nope.
I have to have some sort of solution. Now I have some different solutions sometimes, but you know, I need to try to order this part, come back and try this in there before I can move past that because I'm stuck on that, but I can't prove it, type of a thing. But I'll stay and grind because that's how I learned, man. I learned by just getting in there, digging in. Sometimes when I follow guys up, I'll just go that extra distance right away, take it apart, look at it, see what's going on. Turbo shot, pull the mags right away, pull them, open stuff up. You
Hmm.
know, the answer's in there somewhere.
That's awesome, man. I love this, dude. We haven't talked until today. Just short comments back and forth on Facebook, and I'm glad this actually has happened because you're a pretty cool dude, man. So,
You lagged out just a second there, probably just on my side, but I missed the question.
I said, do you do just cooking or do you cold side as well?
Yeah, just hot side. Man, I've been hanging on tight to that.
There's days I wish I didn't do refrigeration, man. When I first started, I was hot side only for like 3 years, and I have ADHD, so I get bored real easy, and I got bored real easy with the hot side stuff. And I wasn't doing anything crazy. I wasn't doing combis. I wasn't doing microwaves.
Right.
I was just doing, the basic ovens and steamers and that kind of stuff. And I got bored with it, and I wanted to do refrigeration. And unfortunately, where I was at didn't want to train me, so I left for what I thought was something better, and it really wasn't. But you know, I ended up pretty much being self-taught refrigeration. And like you said, you don't leave. You got to stick it out, man. I can't leave. I have to have some kind of resolution or know that I'm making a best attempt to fix it. So, I mean, I've came back on Saturdays. I've stayed, 15 hours on jobs.
Yeah.
It's just I can't I can't leave it. So, yeah, you're a lot like me.
And it's nice to be, I mean, for so long, I was the low guy on the totem pole, right? And so I felt like if I'm there this long, it's because I'm dumb. I'm not getting it, right?
Hmm.
Somebody else probably would. These days, I feel, I don't, who else am I going to go to? It's like I have to do this. And I know that me leaving and bringing someone else in isn't necessarily going to be the right answer. I have to figure out because who else is going to do it?
Yeah, everyone always asks me like, "Why don't you call the factory?" I'm like, if I have to call the factory, it's going to be a really bad day for me and the guy on the phone because he's going to want to start at the very beginning. I'm like, no, go to the back of the book because this is where we need to start because I've been through all this. But
And you have to tell them sometimes. You got
yeah,
to
yeah,
tell them, like, I know you talk to idiots half of your day,
hmm,
and I'm an idiot too, but I've already gone up to this point.
yeah,
So if you feel like you need to go back through that to feel good about it, like sometimes I'll call and I'll be like, because I know a lot of the guys at tech
yeah.
support, I'm not afraid to call, and I'll be like, Marshall at Alto Sham, are you ready? Did you have lunch yet? Because we're about to deep dive this thing.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. That's what I always tell them. Is like, if I'm calling you, it's going to be bad. And generally, I'm bad about like once I give them the model too, like, what can I help you with? And I just start rattling off all kinds of readings and information. They're like, whoa, 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 stop, stop, stop. What have
yeah,
you done? And I tell them, they're like, oh, okay. So they
yeah,
know. So I just bombard them with information off the bat, and hopefully they catch my point, and that I'm not someone new that just started or something.
yeah, right. What's the gas pressure? It's good.
Dude, that is my biggest pet peeve, man. I got a guy that's been doing this 17 years. He'd call me, an issue on a fry or something. What's your gas pressure? It's good. No, no, no. It's good is not a reading, bud. It's good as you just telling me it's good. So
And there is that, but I've also had guys when I'm talking to tech support or something like, "What's the gas pressure?" It's good. I know it's good. I've recorded it. I know what it's supposed to be, but I've moved on and I'm thinking about something else
yeah.
right now, right? So that goes back to
Hmm.
I'm up here, you're still back here. Like I've already come through this. It's good, but I get it, right? Again, they don't talk to us every day, right?
Yeah.
They talk to Johnny Rencher from whatever. Anybody calls tech support, it seems
Oh
like.
yeah. Owners that lie, techs that lie, people that are they talk to plumbers working on stuff that hey, they asked me, look at this, what's this do? How do I turn this thing on? I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm not beating up on nobody. You got to start somewhere, but at least have some information for them and know
Yeah.
how to use some tools. That's the bad thing. You hear horror stories all the time about guys at the factory. Well, I had to explain to the guy how to use his multimeter. I was like, oh my gosh.
Well, that's a good place for if they can somehow funnel that through to their newer tech support guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Newer tech support guy, handle this guy, right? I think Blodgett was doing that for a while. They'd have guys answer the phone, and I would tell them like, I need help with this. Like, can you, and they would bump you up to, DJ or the next guy because they're like, okay, I only handle, you know, DFG 100 questions. I don't handle, the combi questions.
Yeah, yeah, that's a pretty decent point. I almost wonder if like Wellbill's doing that now because they know who you are by your phone number now and name. So I almost wonder if they're doing the same thing behind the scenes and we don't even know it.
Ah, yeah, they know who you are, but they still ask you every time.
Oh yeah, just to verify. Well, I mean, people get fired and give phone. Companies just share phones. You never
True,
know.
true.
Some of the smaller companies probably. I know we disable the numbers and give a new number out, but some companies don't do that. They set a phone in the drawer. Next guy gets that phone and all the numbers and hope it's not bad.
Good point. Yeah, that can get weird. Well, so let me go back to. I got my own van right after going through some stuff back in Portland at Ron's Service. Man,
Mhm.
they treated me like family. I was there for 13 years.
I heard a lot of good things about them, man.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
we did a lot of rationale stuff. We installed a ton of ovens. We did everything. We had some good guys over there, um, and dude, they saw stuff in me that I did, especially the owner Tim Foley. Like he kept going to bat for me, man, because dude, a lot of that time I wasn't living a life conducive to being a technician. I was still young and partying and stuff, and I'd be calling in sick sometimes and doing stuff like that. And he kept me around, man. And but eventually, uh, I heard. Well, Braun Service felt like it was something was going on there, and there was rumors and everything. And right at that time, I was approached by a mechanical company that said that they had a small local chain burger place, and but they're gonna try to get their hot side going. And so they offered me $9 an hour more to go over there, and I talked to them a bunch. I didn't want to leave, but man, I did it. I left them, and it was hard. I felt like I owed them a lot, but I left, and it was a good move, man. It worked out awesome. It was a union company. Like they had plumbers, they had they had all the guys, pipe fitters, they had sheet metal guys, refrigeration guys. But there was two of us that just did hot side, and they kept us out of the union. And so what they ended up getting drummed up for us is they took Alto-Sham warranty work and Electrolux warranty work from Braun Service / General Parts, which it turned into. During their switchover, we ended up getting those. And so I worked on Alto-Shams and Electrolux combis all day, every day, except for some 1980s fryers here and there. And so that was 5 years there, just me and a guy named Jake who came over from Ron Service with me, a young guy. And I ended up getting the Tech of the Month thing with Alto-Sham. And our little company with the two of us, we got Service Company of the Year from Alto-Sham.
Dang.
If they're doing it on numbers, that's cool. There's just two of us running around just doing that. So, but that was awesome, And then we started getting that company a bunch more work. And eventually I found myself married with kids. My wife's from Florida. I'm from Minnesota, and we're in Oregon. And it's like, man, we're taking vacations to Minnesota. I don't have a babysitter. I don't have any family here. So we're like, well, let's move to Minnesota. And so I called around everywhere before I moved here, and eventually I landed with General Parts, and it's been awesome. It's been really good.
That's cool. So you've been here, what, 5 years, you said, right?
Yep, 5 years. Made it through COVID. Um,
That's
that
probably
was
scary for you because the way they did the COVID layoffs kind of scared a lot of people. Um,
yeah, and I stayed on, which
I
well,
wasn't I wasn't a big fan of that. I think because at our branch anyway, they just like seniority cut, kicked it to the curb. I'm like you could have got rid of this guy and kept this guy. I'm like but I mean that wasn't my decision. they had little time to do it, and they just did it as fast as they could. I get it.
It seemed like a rush job. I mean, I don't know. That'd be tough, but
Oh yeah,
and I don't know
it
who
would
made
be
the
tough.
decisions, but at
No,
our place, it wasn't seniority.
no,
I was there only for a couple of years at that time, and I stayed. And there were guys that had been there forever that got laid off, and
yeah,
that was tough, man. I was there when they were leaving, and I was like,
yeah.
like I was happy to be there, but that was tough. But I was so grateful to still have a job, even though we're cut back
Oh
to 30 hours.
yeah. I don't think I ever seen 30 hours. I stayed pretty busy.
I did too.
I I've worked more hours this first few weeks until someone at corporate caught how many hours I was working, and all of a sudden they're like, he can't do that anymore. And
Yeah,
they're like, well, no one else wants to work, and he's just doing it.
sure.
So I stayed pretty busy, and it's never really went away. It's pretty much been that way since then. But yeah, that was a crazy time. So I'm glad
Did
I
you
made it.
guys lose office people and stuff too?
Yeah, we lost. We had a shipping and receiving person. We lost, and then we had yeah, yeah, we lost shipping and receiving person. We were down to 8 guys in, so we didn't have a huge office staff. We had two managers, we had a dispatcher, and we had a shipping and receiving person. So the two managers kind of fill in everywhere else where it's not needed. So right now they're doing shipping and receiving. We're back up to 8 techs now.
Oh,
We've
good.
hired a bunch of we've had a bunch of new people with no experience start. I mean, no experience in the true industry. So my son, if you see me post stuff that says my trainee is a young guy, it's like 20
Yeah.
years old. That's technically my son. He gets mad if I say that, but so like all the posts are like, I call him my trainee. So,
Tell
but
him you could call him worse.
yeah. So we've got him, which he had zero mechanical experience. Like he worked on his car one time. Um, we got a guy that's done 2 years of residential HVAC. He started a couple weeks ago. We had a guy start last week that trying to find his way in the world. I think his last career was like airplane mechanic or something along those lines. So he's transitioning over to what we're doing. So he wants to learn refrigeration and everything. So we got him. We got another guy that's been in the industry for a little while. Started. So we're back up to 8, I think, 7 or 8. So it's looking better. It's just coming along. But for the longest time, we didn't even get applicants, man.
Yeah.
It's such a weird time.
Right.
And
Yeah. Where's everybody?
Yeah,
Right?
and now it's pretty much like, well, if they apply, bring them on and see what they can do. So
If they apply, give them a try.
yeah, it's rough, man. It's like we have 3 senior techs, me, another guy that's mid-50s, been doing it like 16 years, and we got a guy named Greg. He's been doing this 38 years, I think he said in the last episode, and he's trying to retire. He's beat up, back, knees. He didn't take care of himself. You know his job is, and so we have more new guys that need training than we have guys to train them. So it's kind of a weird situation to be in.
Speaking of guys getting older and getting out, I keep thinking we need to try to find a way to take care of the older guys. Because we can't do this forever, but we have all the knowledge, right? But our knees, it gets hard, dude. And so these guys just keep going until their body falls apart. And then what? Like, there's got to be a better way. We got to find something for us to do when we get old.
Yeah, it seems like we're just kind of used and then tossed away once we can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I know Parstown was doing some like tech support stuff. I don't know what avenues could be there, but as far as GP, I'm not sure what's going on. It's weird. I know they're letting some guys that want to retire go part-time, so they work like 3 days a week versus 5 days. Try to take it a little easier on them. I'm a big fan of letting your older senior techs, as long as they're willing to teach and do it the right way. Let them have the new guys, let them learn, let the new guys learn from them. Older guys are a wealth of knowledge, been doing this for years. As long as they are willing to take the time, and do it the right way is the key. We can't just have them, change that, change this, do that. Explain it to them. They gotta know why they're doing it. So it's definitely a weird industry though to finish out. Like once you get to that 55, 60, and it's just you can't do it anymore. It's just what do you do? But you're not ready to hang it up.
And that's one of the things I think it feels like the way we do things and the way unions do things need to get aligned a little bit better,
Yeah.
right? Because that's where our guys are going. We've lost 3 guys to the unions since COVID.
Yep.
Young, good guys, some of our best guys,
Mm-hmm.
and because of the union stuff. And I mean, I don't know. I don't know about union, but when they get older, they're set up, and
Yep.
they leave before they're beat up, and they leave comfortably, and we can't do that. I mean, we can, right? If we do it all right and we don't go build giant garages in our backyard and spend all our money on Jeeps and stuff.
I gotta have fun. I am the king of poor financial decisions. I'm not gonna lie. Dustin says there needs to be an opportunity for older guys to do training, but they usually still get stuck with running calls as it seems they back out anyway. Yeah, um, it's definitely weird. Um, Dusty, he's he's the one that's normally in here with me. He said, "Don't be afraid to put in those hours." Man, I don't. I like to stay at like 55. If I can stay at 55 and coast, I'm all right. And I've got it figured out pretty well because if I can get my first call at 7 in the morning, I'll just leave at 5 in the morning. If it takes me 2 hours to get there, if it takes me an hour, I'll just leave at 6 in the morning. And I'm generally home by 5:30 or 6 or 5. You know, just depends. And it works out pretty well because my wife works from home, so by that time she's just getting off work and stuff. So we still do some stuff, but I mean, there's been weeks on call weeks. Generally, is what happens where I'll crank out 70 hours, 75 hours in 5 days. It's just like, I can't do this.
Yeah, and I used to do that. I've had times where I do that. I've had times where I have to do that because I
Oh,
need
yeah.
the money. Um, right now, I don't know, in the last, maybe around COVID, I'm like, I was home more and I was seeing my kids grow up. I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. And I'm like,
Hmm.
I need to take, I need to provide for my family. That's why I need to work. I also need to be here for them and see
Yeah.
them grow up and stuff like that. So I've consciously backed off of my hours a little bit. I'm there if they need me. If they need more hours, we can do that. But I have to prioritize right now. Right before kids, I was grinding constantly.
Yeah.
They're little right now. I need to be here for them right now, but I'm gonna be here later on too. So
Yeah, that's a great point to make. When I first started doing this, I didn't make no money, man. I I was playing catch up from my past mistakes. I had to work all the hours I can. I wasn't making near what I was making now. I think I was being taken advantage of by some of the former places I worked at. Um, so I felt like I had to work a million hours to pay bills and everything else, and I missed a lot of stuff. My kids being younger. So my daughter played travel softball. By the time she got to pretty good, I was making decent money, and we'd travel around. I bought a vehicle just to drive. Bought a big giant Yukon XL, and we drove around and all that stuff. And then my son played football. He was very good at football, really good. Probably should have went to college, but COVID hit, and he didn't get any in person, visits or anything. So it just kind of fell to the wayside. So, but he was in 8th grade, and his game started earlier. They changed the time, and I couldn't get there because I was at work. I came home to pick up my wife to go, and like someone called me like, "Hey, Corbin's hurt, my son." And I was like, "Oh shit!" Well, he broke his leg. The bad thing was he laid on the field for a half hour before an ambulance could come get him because it was a middle school game, so they didn't have an ambulance. So he laid on the field with no parents there for a half hour. Now, luckily, some of our friends were there and they took care of him. But you know, after that point, I made a point that I told my office, I said, and I didn't tell them why I did this, but I told them every Friday I will be home by 5 o'clock because high school football games were on Friday. That was in 8th grade. So I made sure, if I was on call, hey, I'll come out after the game. I'll do it tomorrow, and I'd leave at 4 a.m. to make sure I get my call volume done in time for me to come home. I'll make sure I took care of the customer too. So time goes on and he graduates high school. And last year, I think one of the guys wanted to start getting off every Wednesday at like noon to go play golf with his buddies. I'm like, seriously? He's off every Wednesday during summer to play golf with his buddies? And my dispatcher looks at me and she goes, well, you used to be off every Friday by 5 to watch your son play football. And I was like, whoa. I was like, I never told you why I did that. She's like, what do you mean? She's like, you just wanted to watch your son play football. I was like, no. I said, I made a promise that he'd never be in that position again. And I explained it to her, and she's like, oh. I was like, so, I mean, I try to do things for my kids. but I missed a lot of stuff when they were younger, and it sucks. I mean, I've missed school stuff, uh, programs, birthday parties. I mean, you get addicted to the money,
Yeah,
and then you get addicted to not struggling too. So it's definitely a battle. It's kind of a weird point, weird thing to do.
it is, and it was. I'm starting to get a little comfortable with that. Comfortable with my decision to do that. I mean,
Hmm.
I've given, I've given a lot to work, and and I've got more to give, but I've also got a family to raise, right? I gotta have a job, make money to support my family,
Yeah,
but I gotta be with that family too. My job is more than providing money for them.
yeah.
I mean,
GP has done a big push. So they're seeing that now, and I don't know if that's part of the PT Holdings thing or if it was a push before, but they're I know my brain especially. It's more of a your time's more than just work. They want to make sure that you can do things for your family, do things for your kids. It's become more of a priority than it was in the past. Um, but I'm guilty about I don't want to let a customer down or I don't want to let GP down a lot of times. And now it's not so bad 'cause my kids are older, but when they were younger, I shouldn't have done that. I should have focused more on my kids like you're doing now. So that's cool, man.
well, here's another thing. What do you think about on call? Johnny's Pizza calls in, right? Saturday night. Their pizza oven's down. Who's Johnny's Pizza? Da-da-da, not in the system, never heard of them, or we've been there once. I need you guys out here. My 40-year-old Blodgett pizza oven's down, and I can't make pizzas. I'm I'm doing something with the family or whatever, even if I'm not. Is it our duty to take that call from someone who doesn't use us normally? Their normal guy doesn't work on the weekends. Is it our duty as the repair guys to leave our situation, or maybe hey, maybe it's on a Tuesday night at 9 o'clock and you got a job at 6 o'clock the next morning. So now you're cutting into my safety the next day. I'm gonna be
Hmm.
tired. This guy's probably not gonna want to pay. No, I shouldn't say probably, but there's a decent chance, right? He's panicking. Hurry
Hmm.
up. Is it our duty to take that call to go fix him up, or can we be selective about that stuff?
Well, I mean, how we do it is if they're a credit card customer or they're not in the system, we don't run it. So if a call comes in and say they only use it say twice a year, they don't have credit terms or a credit card customer, we don't run it.
But that's it's not always been like that. That's fairly new.
It's always been like that in our market.
Really?
We've never ran anybody that was COD or credit card. We've never ran them out of Indy.
No kidding. Well,
Yeah,
and
I
that's
think
how it should be. I mean, what
yeah,
are
I
you
mean, reserve it for your top tier customers, manufacturers that are going to approve it, that kind of stuff. Um,
that's how it should be.
Because if not, I mean, they'll beat you up. I mean, you'll run yourself to death for people that, like you
Absolutely.
said, more than likely aren't going to pay.
Yeah. They're
I mean,
not.
it's a sad truth. We get calls all the time from companies, from people that wants to fix their stuff, and credit card bounces, or you know, we don't do checks anymore. Luckily, because that was a big thing. Just
That was
write a
terrible.
check, and it's not going to, it's not going to float, so they don't care. But
Wasn't it the worst collecting from customers? Like you're there for forever and doing stuff, and then you got it. You know that you now have to back up and be like, "Here you go," and ruin that moment by saying, "Now, here's the bill." And they're like, "What? You've been, what? You didn't even do anything or something." Just
dude,
it's
COD was the worst back in the day. I'm glad we don't do it anymore. I had 16 years ago, I had an Asian restaurant pay me $832 in $1 bills.
nice.
He used all his tip money and paid me. And I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" And I called my boss. He's like, "Just go get a money order." And I'm like, "Dude, it's $832 in ones." I think it's gonna
Nice.
take me like a half hour to get a money order because no one's gonna want to count this. It had all been folded and wadded up.
Uh,
I'm like, this is
Terry,
ridiculous.
he had $100 bills sitting there too, and he
Probably,
just grabbed
probably.
it
He
once.
just started counting out $1 bills. I was like, no. I was like, this isn't gonna go like this. And sure enough, it did.
My boss in Portland, he a couple times he's like, somebody promised, yeah, we're gonna pay, and then you get the job done, they're not paying. Hey boss, what do I do? Pull the parts and get out of there, rip them right out of the oven and leave.
That's bad, man. That is bad.
But I mean, you do the work. That's
Oh, I know.
they're stealing, right?
That's
So
why we, if it's a credit card customer or a COD, which is credit card now, I mean, we pre-authorize it for a certain amount. I mean, before we
everything.
even will go. So,
Yeah.
and I think that's part of the reason why we don't do the overtime things because we have no way to pre-authorize it as a technician.
Sure.
So, I mean, I've had our after-hour service of like take people's credit card numbers and stuff. I'm like, why are you guys doing that? I'm like, you can't do anything with it. There's no point.
Yeah.
I'm like, you guys shouldn't even do that. So,
We used to do that. We'd write it on the work order. Just like we'll do it next week.
dude, I hated COD. That was always bad. Been waiting on a check, and then they're just beating you up the whole time to write the check. Well, you didn't even do this. You didn't even do that. I'm like, yeah, I did. Well, I don't know what I have to pay you from driving from here to here when
Right.
it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not here to beat you up, dude. I fixed it. Unfortunately, I have to be the guy that takes the check.
Yeah. It helps so much now. I feel like I remember back in the day there was service manager was always on the phone with somebody complaining about a bill or this or that constantly. It was like calling the cable company every couple months to get your cable down. People would call about every bill and see what they could get. I feel like that's not happening as much.
Man, we have a customer. Literally, we will write a quote. I will come in under the quote that he approved, and he still calls and complains about the bill. I'm like, dude, you approved this amount, and I came in under. Why are you calling? Like, you lose every right to complain at that point. If I went over, it'd be a different discussion. But I went under what you agreed to, and it's still an issue.
Yeah. I got to say something.
So, Chilled Guy, he does some pretty cool stuff. He does a lot of residential stuff, but he has a good point. He said some of the best techs are the worst teachers. All
True.
the knowledge, but no patience. I run into a lot of that in my position.
Yeah.
Hold on just a second. Getting over a cold. So I'm a lead tech in Indy, and I get all the crazy rationale calls people can't figure out, all the refrigeration calls people can't figure out. So a lot of times having a new guy like me makes no sense because, like you said, you spent your first year bending pilot tubes. Well, guess what? They're not sending me on the millivolt fryer. They're not sending me on the basic convection oven. They're not sending me on the range. They're not sending me on this. So the guys around of me a lot of times don't get to see all that stuff.
Right.
So there's a balance to it. So I've been trying to make a point to like, hey, rotate the guys around to different guys, so they kind of see a different stuff because we all get stuck in a certain genre or a certain niche of stuff we work on.
Yep, I'm holding true to the Alto Sham thing. I chase those things all over the place. That's been my bread and butter for a good while.
I started up 4 today. One was one. Well, they're all 480. It was a double stack set of CTP 720s, and then it was 2 2020s, the big boys, and one was literally 3 inches from the wall on the left.
Nice.
In a brand new school cafeteria. I was like,
tons of room in there, probably.
Well, it was out on the serving line, and yeah, the hood is under like a 6-foot hood, but instead of putting it in the middle, they slid it all the way over so they could slide a table next to it. I'm like, this ain't gonna work.
And that's why we do call us, site survey, do the thing.
Yep. Yeah, they're the kitchen people are actually coming back to fix it because we didn't install it. I just went and did the startups, and I was like, dude, this can't be here. And it's like it's sitting on the floor drain. They got the the brass floor drain thing in there, and that's what it's sitting on. I'm like, you can't even move this thing, dude, because if you move it over 3 inches, it's gonna fall in that hole. I was like, this thing weighs like 900 pounds, man.
Yeah, and then when you got to try to move it to get in the left panel over there.
That's what I told him. I was like, anytime someone has to service this, I said, they're going to drag it across the floor. It's going to scratch this floor up. I said, move this thing over. I said, get rid of that table. And they're like, okay, they're going to move it. So I got lucky there. But
an old contractor on a construction site showed me a trick one day. I had a double stack of 720Es with a hood, and I needed to move them, and there was tiles, and they were sticking up and stuff, and I'm just struggling over there. And he's like, hold on. He goes and gets this big sponge and comes over with soapy water and just right around the floor. And wouldn't you know, that thing just slid real nice on there.
Really?
Yeah, it helped a lot more than I thought it would.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you do a lot of combi work, I take it then?
Combi?
Yeah, pretty much all combi work? Or
Yeah, I do a lot of combi work, but And in the past, I've only done combi work. Right now, because of our dedicated tech programs, uh, here's what I'm dedicated tech for: Alto Sam, Pitco, Blodgett, and Vulcan. So
I only got the Alto Sham, a backup rationale, which means they carry like 10 rationale parts, and then that's all I got, luckily.
I
Because
would
I get,
rather, I'd rather just do combi ovens all the time.
yeah, yeah, I got lucky though, and only got the Alto Sham. I've done rationale. I've done rationale for 11 plus years now.
Yeah, me
I did
too.
rationale before I realized they were rationale because they were always rebadged with Henny Penny because I was doing
Yeah,
them in Myers.
yeah.
And I went to rationale school. I was like, oh, I've worked on these. These are Henny Pennies. They're like, no, they buy it from us, put their name on them. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I've been to Schaumburg twice. Been through, been through Pete's week of training twice. Been to Alto Sham twice. But because of dedicated tech and because first time fix is number one, um, they don't let me work on rationales because I don't have the parts.
yeah, I'm the same way. I get like thrown to them occasionally. I get to install them. So
Yeah,
because I'm just when it comes to install, I'm the fastest person and it makes it look the best. So
sure.
it's always me, but generally I don't work on them.
And then, I do some PMs at schools, a lot of combi PMs, and I've got 53 rationales at my different customers that I
Hmm.
PM and stuff like that. Yet, when I PM them and something's wrong, they send, I do the quotes and everything, and then they'll send a rationale guy out to do the work.
So I don't think it should do that. I think it should still be you
So,
to do the work because you already
yeah,
diagnosed it. You already know what's wrong with it. It's still
right.
going to be a first time fix because
I
it's
know.
still going to be first time coming out of the park. So it doesn't make sense.
I didn't think so either, but
I don't.
that's how we're doing it.
Me and the first time fix thing don't get along. I'm like, because it's so unfair. Because like they want to give us our first time fix, but then there's stuff that's not even on the first time fix program that goes towards it. I'm like, no, this ain't fair. I'm like,
Everything.
I'm like, it's all calls though. It's not just the first time fix program stuff I'm on, the dedicated stuff. It's all my calls. I'm like, that's not fair at all.
I was told at my last review that I had the best first time fix in the company, the whole
Nice.
company. They're like, how do you do that? I'm like, estimates. Writing estimates. I go in there. If I can't fix it, if you just want to see a first time fix, then I'm doing an estimate.
Yeah, there's ways around everything.
Yeah. If that's
I
what
think
you want to see, we'll make it happen.
nice. What else? What else?
What'd you do today?
I had the startups. I was a little bit
Oh
everywhere. I had those 4 startups. You do any dish machine or disposal work?
yeah.
So I had a school. I went there to look at a cooler. The cooler is like a 30-year-old Hobart on R22. Coils rotten, leaking, so I can't fix it. Um, so I heard disposal. I was like, man, what is that sound? It's like it's golf balls in there. It's an old Waste King, dude, and the bearings are out of it. Uh, the disposal's like 15 years old, but the controller that's controlling it's like 50 years old. It's just a nightmare. So the piping's all galvanized pipe, and it's
Yeah.
all just like it's not supported. It's just bouncing around under there. The solenoid's bad. There's a vacuum breaker up underneath the sink, which is against code.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, so I messed
It
with all
wasn't
that.
when it was installed. That was right in code.
Oh,
Right.
that probably was back then, true. So, but I went and looked at that. So I condemned all that. I'm gonna give a price. Just rip it all out. I'm gonna use the mount for the reuse the mount for the controller and just do everything new. So I was working on that, and I worked on a Crown boiler based steamer. So
Was it labeled Southman?
no, it was actually Crown.
Oh, okay.
So this school system is how I actually got the school system. Was I was in there doing work on a rationale because they had a mechanical company they couldn't fix the rationale. And they're like, hey, our other school is having a problem with their steamer. You know anything about steamers? It's like, oh yeah, I cut my teeth on them. So they're like, well, this guy comes in here like every 2 3 weeks and just flushes it out, and it runs fine for a week or two. And he comes back and flushes it out. And this thing was absolutely, it was old. Well, it wasn't even that old. It was a Morgan Forge, and all the air vents leaked. I mean, it just had never been PM'd right. And I came through and I put it on a pump overnight. I came back with anode. I came back with air vents. I fixed steam leaks. I fixed steam traps on the kettles, and like it ran great for like 6 months. And they're like, "We're only calling you from now on. Like we don't even want anyone else from your company. It's just you."
That's the best, dude.
Yeah.
That's the goal, right?
but then Market Forge got sold, and all of a sudden you can't get parts for this steamer that's like 4 years
Yeah.
old. There's
Right.
no parts for it. You're like, so they bought a Crown, and they got one big enough. It's like 300,000 BTUs to feed these two kettles, and so I bolted them all together and made it work. It looks cool. I mean, the kettles are like 50 years old next to a brand new Crown, but
That's
it's just got
nice.
some steam leaks, and it's time to descale it. It's Christmas break, and it's had a rough few months where they just run it nonstop.
I've got schools full of Market Forges, and there's water valves I can't get. I've already been through, going through all points and finding you know, stuff that crossed over to, different things. And I'm like, start getting ready to get rid of this thing. Cause it's done. It's over.
Yeah, what did it for me is I needed the brass. It had the handles on the side you pulled. It had the
Yeah.
brass body there with the balls in it,
Yeah.
and it sealed it off and opened it. I could order one, but I needed two. And he's like, don't order either one of them. He's like, I'm not dealing with it. He's like, they just bought a brand new one. I was like, okay.
That's good, man. Cause it's hard to get people lunch ladies, right? In schools. They don't want to get rid of those things. They love them.
Well, that's the good thing. The lunch ladies all work for the schools, but the food service director is through a third party service.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he generally pulls them pretty fast. I mean, they listen to him, so it works out for me.
So how are we going to get some more people into this trade, man? That's the hot topic, right? And I mean,
dude, I don't know, man.
You're doing some things. I like what you're doing, Malachi, like making this a visible thing, and that's awesome. I think that's a good point. I've tried to get into schools and stuff like that. My boss is like, we've done that. It doesn't work, and I think I've heard you've done some of that. But just getting these guys that don't know about it, right? They're all going into HVAC because they know somebody that's got a boat and a nice truck and stuff like that, and they're doing HVAC. Well, how do we get them to come over here? Don't tell them about the grease and stuff and just slowly get them into it.
Dude, I show them it all. I don't care. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if you see my post the other day about that fry pot I changed, how that place looked, dude. It was that was like the worst place I've ever seen. It was terrible. But I mean, I just like try to show stuff I do, cool stuff we do, and I mean I show it all. I'll show the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent. I mean, I don't want someone to come and think it's a cool job and then all of a sudden, they're underneath a fryer playing in grease and they're cussing me out because it looks cool, but now I'm covered in grease. I mean, I'm not gonna do that. But that's how I all started. Like I had Instagram and I was following all these HVAC, these plumber guys and electricians, and like they had these huge followings. I'm like, but there's no one, like me out there was doing this stuff. So that's what made me start it all. And then the podcast was just a joke, man. Like I said, I got ADHD, and I was like, one day I was like, oh, I want to do a podcast. No one talks about us, just being greedy. And I forgot about it. Yeah, I forgot about it. I was walking by Gary's office because Gary's based out of Indy.
Oh, that's right.
He lives
you see him all the time, huh?
Yeah, when he's in town. He's hardly ever in town anymore. So he's like, hey, Pat, I want to talk to you. And I was like, oh, shit, what do I do? He's like, no, it's good. It's about your podcast. I was like, oh, he's going to tell me I can't do it. And then he's like, no, we want you to do it. I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah. He's like, I want you to do it. We want to help you out, and we'll, help with sharing the stuff and everything. So it's pretty cool. They've been behind me and supported me 100%. I've done a lot of cool stuff from it. I went to NRA last year. I went to Cefesa, but that was just probably more because of my award. But that was a cool experience. I'm going to NAFM. I'm doing that on my own. So I'm actually going to go down there on my own and hang out with a buddy of mine. He's going down there, and I'm going to talk to some manufacturers and stuff, see if I can't line something up too. So,
cool.
But mainly I'm just trying to show what we do, man. I'm going to work something out with Rich. We've been talking a little bit. I need to get him scheduled on and have him on here and talk about, what he's doing, because he's doing a lot of cool stuff too, man. He did that trick or trade thing for Halloween. That was the coolest thing I've seen in a long time. Yeah. So he had like a big poster out there and explained the trade. It had candy for the kids, but it showed what we did. It was cool.
Yeah, that's good, man. I mean, who even knows this exists, right? Like I have dudes working in kitchens. What are you, an electrician or a plumber? I'm like, no, dude, I work on restaurant equipment. He's like,
Dude.
you just do that?
No one realized that it's a job. I mean,
Yeah,
it's just kind of like, oh, we didn't realize, we didn't think that stuff broke. Well, everything breaks, man. There's someone to fix everything in the world.
and it's a niche too, man. Like
You can make a
we're
ton of money.
unicorns, dude. We're unicorns. There's none of us. There
No,
aren't. It's just us, right? And we have to bring people in. Um, talk about job security. There aren't anymore. You know, there's a
yeah,
million plumbers, a million electricians. There's just not that many of us, and they could come in here with a little bit of experience. But you've got to, you have to learn this industry. You have to learn cooking equipment. You can come in with some HVAC experience, but dude, it's like you said, we've been doing this for a long time, and we'll still get our butts kicked. We still have to learn new stuff all the time. You know?
if this technology of how stuff runs now, if when I first started, if it was like this back 20 years ago, I don't know if I could have done it. I mean,
Yeah.
everything's computer controlled, everything's a touch
Ah,
screen, everything. I mean, there's wires, communication. Back then everything was either line voltage or 24 volts AC. Now,
right.
I mean, you'll have fryers that have 208, 120, 24-volt AC, 12-volt DC, 5-volt DC,
Yeah.
3-volt DC. I'm like, how many voltages does this thing have?
Yeah. And then keeping track of that. And even if you are using what you already know, trying to trace power, all of a sudden it'll switch to 5 DC on you. And
Yeah,
it's like, what? I don't think I have power here. You know, here's the
it's
problem. Like, oh, you
it's
didn't see that changes.
yeah. So now you gotta be able to understand communication. With data cables, and it's nuts. I mean, I try explaining to my son. He's like, "Well, where's your temp probe on this fryer?" And I'm like, "Which one?" He's like, "What do you mean, which one?" I was like, "There's 3 temp probes." He's like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, this one measures the oil. This one measures the oil for this, and this one measures the oil level, so it knows how full it is."
And this one looks like a probe, but it's actually a heater.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy.
It really is.
So, but I mean, I think the younger guys can do it. I think they're smart enough. It's just the burnout is what gets them. So I had a younger guy work with us for about a year, and he quit because he was working too many hours. And but the thing is, he didn't say nothing about it. Unfortunately, he just like I asked him, I was like, "Why are you leaving, dude? I said, do you haven't really been here long enough to feel if you know it or not, or if you're gonna like it?" And he said he didn't want to work the hours. He said, he said it'd be 5 o'clock and there's still 2 calls on my board. I'm like, don't run them. He's like, well, they're on my board. I'm like, I don't care. I was like, her job's to clear her board. She just threw it on your board. You
Yeah,
get to it if you get to it. If not, you don't. It's going to be there tomorrow.
that's right.
He's like, well, I never thought about that. I was like, did you tell anybody that? No. I was like, God damn it, man.
It's important to be able to work with your dispatcher, dude.
Yeah.
My dispatcher, Patty, dude, we're like the dynamic duo out there. You know what I mean? It's like we kind of got that. We work really well together, and that helps. Like I tell her, here's what I got going on, and anyway, it just works really well if you have a good dispatcher.
Yeah,
Sure.
you got to communicate, definitely. Communication with your dispatcher and your boss, I mean, goes a long way.
Absolutely.
Me and my dispatcher, we have our days where we fight like cats and dogs, and some days we're telling jokes, cracking jokes, and we're best friends. I mean, it just it's just how it goes. I mean, she calls me, she goes, "Hey, I got a question." I'm like, "No, don't even bother asking it." No. She goes, "You have you heard it yet?" I'm like, "I don't care. The answer's no. Leave me alone."
Yeah, I'm busy. I'm full.
So, that's cool. So
You think you're gonna get any of those new trucks out in your area or what,
no, I
man?
tried. I tried. We're
I just
getting.
got mine last week with 16 miles on it.
How do you like that truck body?
Dude, the truck, the front, the cab, sick. It's so nice. It's so comfortable. Um, except for like you don't have the center console to collect
Yeah.
stuff. So I had all this stuff and now it's in boxes in the back of the truck because there's nowhere to put it,
Is it a
which is
bench
fine.
seat or is it
What's that?
captain's? Is it bench or captain's chairs?
It's got you can seat 3 across there.
Okay, so it's a
So the
bench.
middle is just as you fold it down.
Yeah.
It's got a little holder there, so it doesn't, so there's some. The van is easier to work out of.
Mm-hmm.
The truck, I mean, that thing when you steer it, it doesn't sway like this. It just holds, so stuff isn't falling, sliding around. Um, the back of the truck isn't set up for it. It's hard to work out of.
Oh yeah, it'd be a nightmare for a refrigeration guy or a combo guy.
Yeah, and it's hard to get in there, and you got to go way in there,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have like closed cabinets or anything. It's just like the whole thing is a row of, I don't know, just a shelf.
Yeah, I think if it truly was going to work in our industry, it'd have to be like the big giant KUVs, the big tall ones, where you
Yeah,
put shelves and everything in it and stuff. Um, it'd probably work for like an installer or someone that doesn't do a whole ton of different variety of stuff. You can probably get away with it. But once I seen it, I was like, man, I couldn't do it. I wanted one just because I wanted a truck, but
yeah,
I was like, I couldn't do it. I have so much. I have a Nissan and mine's jam packed, and
yeah.
it's only a third parts and 2/3 tools and everything else I have stuck in there.
Just
So
stuff, and you can organize it somewhat.
hmm
In the side door, I keep going over to the side to open the side door. I'm like, there's nothing over here. Everything's in the back. It's tall, but it's awesome. It's an awesome truck, but it's taken a little bit to get used to.
yeah, I bet I was giving Ed a hard time. I was like, hey, I'll take one of those, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm glad I didn't.
I told my boss, I said, hey, my truck is ready for tires. I need ball joints. I need all this stuff. I see a bunch of these trucks in the shop. What's up? You want me to get this truck fixed or what? No,
I
just
think
hold off. We'll get you in a.
I think most of them went to you guys.
I think so. Yeah.
How many did you guys get?
I don't know. We got 4 on the road right now and another one in the shop. I don't
I
know.
heard there was 25 of them ordered.
Really?
Well, they couldn't get vans, so they ordered them.
Yeah. I remember that being a discussion
These been
for a
on
while.
order, I guess, for like a year. So,
I thought Gary said at one point he was going to stock up on vans.
oh, he is. They still are. If they find them, they're going to buy them.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I got my Nissan. So I had a brand new Nissan with like 16,000 miles on it, totaled it. I hit somebody, I rear-ended somebody, and that was fixable. But a guy come flying up behind me doing like 55 miles an hour, didn't stop or nothing, and tagged me right in the driver's rear corner and just buckled the frame underneath it, dude. And it was like 15,000 miles, dude. And then he gets out screaming, I ain't got insurance. I'm like, well, you just became at fault for all this, bud.
You just became the proud owner of a totaled van.
Yeah. So I bounced around. I had the Transit, and I couldn't do it because that center console is so high. It sticks out so far. It's like beating my knee, and I couldn't walk into it today.
A small Transit?
Yeah. Well, the standard van Transit.
Okay.
And then I'm back in a Nissan now.
Yeah.
I'll ride the Nissan as long as I can. I'm not going to go back to a Transit.
My favorite vehicle ever was my boss at Ron's Service got me a brand new Sprinter van.
Mm-hmm.
And you can pretty much stand up in the back, and he put up a nice table for me with a vise on it and stuff. So, I mean, it was awesome. Like, and it drove like a car. I mean, that's what I would roll. That'd be my choice. Service.
I think there's somebody out in Portland that actually has, like, they took out all the shelves and put all pack outs in there.
Oh, wow.
So I think they just did it on their own. I'm sure they just did it on their own. But
yeah,
I mean, I think that'd be the way to go too.
You're that guy, man. You've got all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm full of pack out, so I don't have room for it in there because all the shelves. Hell, half my shelves are falling out. So, do you guys have a lot of roundabouts there?
Yeah, I mean, enough.
We're
I heard you talking about that on your last show. Your tanks are falling out.
Yeah, it rips the racks out of the wall. The roundabouts do because it's just there's so much weight and it sways so bad.
That's
this
bit.
That's the point about the truck. It's more stiff and rigid. It doesn't sway. And that van sways like crazy. And
it does.
I got one that's loose in there now. You can hear it sliding around, slamming around in there. So I need to go in there this weekend and probably bolt it back in and get some time.
Yeah.
So what do you see the industry going in the next 5-10 years? Just younger guys, 40-hour weeks, or
5 or 10 years, man. I don't know. I don't know about as far as getting guys in. That's just a mystery to me. I don't know how we're going to do that. I think people need to be taking that seriously because so many guys are retired, right? We're the old guys now. I'm 45. What are you, 40?
40, yeah.
Yeah, we're the old guys pretty much now.
Yeah, I remember being the youngest guy for years up until and now my kid works for me, so.
Right. So I don't know what we're going to do as far as getting people in. Something's got to give. But as far as the industry, I feel like it's like for example, Tech C. with AltoSam, right? They'll be like, okay, hold on, let me get you on tech seat, and they'll be right there on the phone, and they'll be like, okay, show me this, show me that, right? Or I've gone in and worked on a couple things for AltoSam. They're like, hold on, let me check. What's the serial number? And they'll be like, oh, we don't have this one linked. I know Electrolux is doing links. Rationale's doing links. I remember the last time I was at Rationale class, they were like, our goal is to make it so when they push clean at the end of the night and everybody leaves and that thing has an error 25 or something, it's going to send us a signal. We're going to send you an email, and you're going to be out there and have that thing fixed before the customer even knows that there's a problem. Stuff like that. I think they're going to be more involved.
Connected yet.
I think we're going to be like, what was it? Myco dishwashers back in the day where we had a Palm Pilot and that was the only way you could do anything with it. I think it's going to be a lot of stuff like that. I think things are going to be linked in there, and they probably won't need us as much. Or they won't need as much experience, right? They'll put the experienced guys on the computer and send somebody out to turn the wrenches.
Yeah, I see a lot of stuff going, like you said, connected to the internet. And I think a lot of it's going to be like Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. It's like you can link to your phone or tablet, and you can get in and check everything that way. If it doesn't have a screen, you can do it. I think it's going to be handheld, capabilities on stuff. So
right, and so then that makes me think that maybe they'd be trying to use cheaper parts, so that they can just have guys in the field changing parts.
Yeah.
And have the brains behind the curtain on the computer or on the link, and just like you do at a hospital or something. You got the guy that has the screen with all this, the whole system, the air handling system, everything. He can just change everything.
The controls guy.
Yeah.
The controls guy that makes all the money in the world.
Yeah, that's us. We're going to be the control guy.
Dude, I've heard rumors of controls guys in India making like $140 an hour, and they just sit and stare at a laptop all day and press buttons. I'm like, this is nuts.
It's like a video game. It's not even real. It's just on your screen.
I mean, with us being in as high demands as we are, I think wages are going to continue to increase, hopefully. And I think that's going to help bring in new talent, younger talent, and get talent from other places. So I'm hoping that trend continues.
Yeah, I think back in the day, like when I started, there was a lot more like what I was doing with just ovens and thermocouples and stuff like that. But like we're saying, things are getting more advanced now. They need to pay us like that, because you can't have Johnny come in and just like changing out gas. It's not all about gas valves anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's when you're
contactors.
That's when you're in situations like me. It's like, I don't get to see some of that stuff I need to see to train some of these guys, because, whether that's the case or not, it's like, well, we pay him X amount of money and it's not worth sending him out on this kind of stuff. So
they can have mid-level guys training them. What's wrong with that,
Yep. Yeah. I think and I've seen companies do all different kinds of things. There's certain companies where, if you're in a training program, it's a year-long program, and your first 6 weeks, you ride around with 6 different guy each week. And at the end of the 6 weeks, they all talk. Okay, is this guy going to make it? Is this, can he do this, this, and this? And then once they decide they're going to keep him, they let that guy come in. Okay, which one of these 6 guys is your mentor? He's your best friend for the next year.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, so, I like that concept, but right now we're just kind of bouncing around guys from guys, from people to people. So they each get to see a different kind of thing. So we'll see how that goes for us right now. See how that works out.
And that way they get to see guys do things so differently. Guys attack things differently, deal with customers differently.
Yeah.
All that stuff. Like if I break my arms off today, I can go somehow deal with customers. I'm better at that than turning wrenches.
I'm far better at talking to people than I am fixing things, because I can have a mad customer, and by the time I leave, they're my best friend, and I didn't even fix it. I mean, it's just, if you can talk to somebody, this job's a lot easier.
It makes it a lot easier.
And don't beat yourself up if it's not fixed, because it was broke when you got there.
I keep hearing you say that, and I like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I've been since I started. And my dad told me that. He's like, hey, it was broke when you got there. Don't worry about it. I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
And on top of that, I've made a rule for myself. Like, I'm not going to, on a Friday, I won't go work on a piece of equipment that works. Like if I have a part, I got a unit working, and I need to go in there and maybe change something that I said I was going to. I'm not doing that on a Friday. Because sometimes when you go work on something that works, When you're done, it doesn't work.
Yeah, you just
You
created
know,
a big old
stuff
storm.
happens.
Yeah, that's funny. So we've been talking for about an hour and 5 minutes, man. I don't want to keep you too long. I
Yeah,
appreciate you coming on, though, man. It's nice to talk to you, and hopefully I can have you back on here at some point in time. So you work out of the Minneapolis branch. If you want to tell people your social media, you can. If you want to stay private, you can. It doesn't matter to me. I just put it all out there because I like showing what I do. Um, so
yeah, dude. Like, I mean, Facebook. I think you've got me tagged in this stuff. Come over and see me on Facebook. If you're friends with Pat, that means I'll get it because I keep it kind of whatever. But you know, that's about all I do as far as social. I got a job and family. Hey, did I tell you congrats yet for your Tech of the Year through Cefesa?
no, man, I appreciate it. You probably did
Dude,
on one of my posts. My post kind of blew up, and like I lost track. I've never had a
that's
post blow up like that. That
that's
was cool,
amazing, man. That's
dude.
amazing.
I had no idea.
That's a cool story. They led you along
Oh
there.
yeah, they led me along, dude. Dan Reese is my buddy because I teach for Cefesa, so Dan's
Yeah,
my buddy. And when I go to Cefesa, me and Dan eat dinner every night. We're smoking cigars, we're drinking bourbon, we're like best friends, for like 9 days. And he wouldn't talk to me. And I was like, oh, he's just really busy. He's like, man, I couldn't talk to you. He's like, I would have told you. He's like, I would have got in trouble.
yeah. No,
So,
that's awesome.
but no,
The hat was
I want
awesome.
I want to have you back on because I want to talk about tech council stuff and some other things we can do in the future. So I'll send you an email. We can reach out. We can talk about some other stuff. Maybe in a month or so, we can revisit and do this again.
Cool, man.
All right. Have a good night.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
See you guys.